Welcome to All Clear Firefighter Health and Wellness. I'm Travis, your host. Today, we're looking ahead. We're not looking into next month. We're not looking into next year. We're looking 5 years down the road. We're going to be looking at 5 years. What will we be seeing in firefighter health and wellness? What needs to change? What needs to evolve? What's too old? What are we doing wrong? And what should we be putting at the top of our priority list right now? Well, let's dive in and see what it takes to live a long, healthy career as a firefighter. All clear, where the truth cuts through. Now, why is it important to have a 5-year plan? Well, think about it this way. Fire culture is built on tradition, and it has its strengths. But when it comes to things like health, wellness, tradition alone isn't enough to carry us through, especially considering all that's happening right now. We see increasing cancer rates. We see behavioral health issues popping up. We see call volumes climbing, sleep deprivation, dietary challenges. We see heat stress, new gear, cardiac strain, and threats that we haven't even thought about yet. And even some of the things we took as regular are now worse than they were than ever in the past. So a 5-year vision isn't about predicting the future. It's about shaping it. Now, if we don't set our priorities today, then in the next decade, we'll be reacting instead of preparing. And firefighters honestly deserve better than that. So what are our different priorities that we need to be looking at? Well, the first one will be cancer prevention as a cultural standard. You know, we've preached this for years, that the battle for cancer is not something that is seasonal. It's ongoing. In the next 5 years, cancer reduction efforts need to be moved away from talking about what's best practice into making non-negotiable firehouse cultural changes. That means gross decon every call, every time. We need to enforce clean cab policies. Make sure that we have smarter gear use. Think about it this way. If it's dirty, it's dangerous. It's not a badge of honor, I promise. Also, we need to have better access to health care, testing, detection, and education. For 5 years from now, I want us to look back and say cancer prevention is how we operate, not this is what we think is the best thing to do. What about our second priority? Let's talk about sleep and stress management. Now, there's one area where departments can make the biggest impact right now, and that's in sleep. Sleep deprivation drives a lot of issues we see. Things like cardiac risk, poor decision making, anxiety, slow reaction time, and even reduced physical recovery. And yet it's still the invisible injury of the fire service that's ongoing right now. In the next 5 years, we'll need to see duty schedules that are evaluated through a sleep science lens. Look at how we schedule our people. We need to start looking at station alerting systems so that they reduce unnecessary sleep interruptions. Mental fitness and stress regulation need to be taught the same way that we teach skills such as forcible entry, ladders, and things on the fire ground. It is a skill that needs to be understood and not just learned later on. And also have access to real behavioral health support. Not as a reactionary thing, but as a preventative available option. Right now, we look at things like debriefings is what you do after a bad call. Well, if we start preparing ahead of time with behavioral health support and training, then we'll be setting up a foundation of readiness. We train on the fire ground, we train for what we might find, but we rarely train our brains. That has to change because our brain is the most important tool we have on the fire ground.
Real quick, did you know that All Clear is a video and an audio podcast? If this matters to you, please like, share, subscribe, especially if you find something that's good for you or your crew. Also, go to allclearpodcast.com, subscribe to our newsletter. Remember, this podcast exists because of you. If you believe in it, help us out. And let's get back to it.
Also, heat stress, hydration, and physiology. We're seeing hotter summers, gears getting heavier. We deal with more calls, and all this combines to create a perfect storm for heat stress. In the next 5 years, firefighter physiology will need to be addressed, especially tracking it. It'll need to be the standard. We'll need to see the things such as wearable tech that'll be measuring our real time exertion. We'll need better hydration protocols. We'll also need to do smarter rehab when it comes to how we rehydrate on the fire ground, how we take our medical vitals, and all of that. We want to make sure our guys are healthy and able to go back in and fight for a second or third round. And ultimately, departments integrating evidence from the NIST and the NFPA studies into their SOGs will also be very critical. We know that there are a lot of studies going on right now to understand the importance of how to properly hydrate, how to manage the physical stresses that we face on the fire grounds. It's going to be very important that we start pushing this into our standard operating procedures. You know, when firefighters understand their bodies, their own physiology, things like heart rate spikes, core temperature, and recovery trends, they'll make safer decisions and better informed decisions on the line. The next thing we'll need to talk about is nutrition and metabolic health. You know, the fire service normalizes things such as energy drinks, fast food, grab whatever you can approach when it comes to eating. But science is clear, metabolic health is one of the strongest predictors of long-term resilience. Now, in the next 5 years, we're going to need to do things such as teach firefighters about basic dietary practices. For example, learn about metabolic basics, things such as protein, glucose control, hydration, electrolytes. We'll also need to shift our firehouse culture away from junk food, energy drinks as what our default is. We'll need to start eating healthier. Amazing, isn't it? Something so simple. We'll also need to build awareness of how gut health will affect our stress, our inflammation, and our cognitive performance. The brain-gut axis is a real thing, and we'll talk about that on a future episode. Remember, all of this isn't about six-pack abs. It's not about being able to flip tires. It's about reducing stress, reducing disease, improving our energy, and ultimately extending our careers. Now, the final thing will be the priority of our mental fitness. You know, mental wellness over the next 5 years is going to move way beyond PTSD and responding to those things. It's going to move on into mental fitness training. The same way that an athlete trains for a marathon or an event, we'll do the same for our mental health. We're talking about things like breath work, stress and reset rhythms. We'll also be talking about cognitive load awareness on the fire ground, learning about tools to respond, not react, in the first few minutes of a tough conversation, or even when we're in a chaotic scene. Learning to build psychological resilience intentionally is important, and this is something that we have to do not by trial and error, but intentionally. Our people shouldn't have to burn out in order to learn how to cope with the job. Now, what can we do right now? Well, the 5-year vision for firefighter wellness starts with every decision we make today. We need to commit to the cancer reduction. We need to protect our sleep, manage our stress, prioritize our physiology and hydration, build metabolic health, and ultimately train our mind like we train our bodies to be able to be resilient. We don't need perfect programs. We just need to take really intentional steps. And when we take those steps, firefighter by firefighter, station by station, these small steps will become big pushes for the future of this job. We'd like to thank you for listening to All Clear this week. It was a short one, but we were talking about a very important topic, what we need to see happen in the next 5 years in the fire service. We do these things, it'll help us be longer lasting at our jobs, and as we always say here on All Clear, light your fire within. Now for questionable humor. The views expressed in this segment do not reflect good judgment. You know, I just started reading a book on the history of glue. I'm really stuck on the first chapter.